Here he is. Yes.
Love it.
Love it. How you doing?
I'm good, babe. How are you?
I'm good. Better now.
Look, before we begin, I'm just going to wait until we get a few more viewers on, and then I'll jump right into it.
Yeah, let's let the hype machine get kicking, right? That's what it's all about. Get the hype machine. Actually, I should have a book myself in case there's some kind of reference. So, fortunately, I have it on hand. Several hundred copies of this bad boy. This one I even was taking notes.
Okay, well, we're going to give it another 30 seconds, and I'm definitely going to jump in.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, sounds good. You're looking sensational.
As are you.
Thank you. I'm trying. Everything below the waist, not so much so. It's definitely a business up top, party down bottom situation.
Oh my gosh. All right. It's about to tick over to 7:01. So
Perfect.
I think that we should kick this off.
Let's do it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Khanh Ong. I'm a chef, presenter, and author of A Gay Guy's Guide to Life, Love, Food. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. And I extend this to any First Nations people watching this evening. As a part of Booktoberfest, Booktopia's annual festival of the best new books, which runs throughout October, I'm thrilled to host this chat with my friend and author of the new book, Dr. Matt's Guide to Life in Space, Matt Agnew.
Thank you, Khanh. Thank you. Yes, I guess I should just give a quick little spiel myself. This is obviously my first, hopefully not my last book that's coming out. Dr. Matt's Guide to Life in Space. Available for pre-order now, available on shelves 1st of November. It's been a journey, and I'm very excited to see it come to fruition. I was very excited to put it in your hands the other day, and I'm looking forward to having a chat. And I think let's jump into it.
Awesome. All right, before we kick things off, we'd love to hear from you all. So comment the questions you'd like to ask us via the question mark Q&A icon, and we'll do our best to go through them towards the end of the event. And feel free to show us some support by giving us some likes, some love, and let us know if you've ordered our books. And if you haven't, you can order a copy right now, both of them, from booktopia.com.au. All right, Matt.
Yes,
before we dive into your book, tell me a little bit about your background, where you come from.
Yeah. So, born and raised in Adelaide, which is a point of contention. Often South Australia and Western Australia argue over who gets to claim ownership of me. But I am born and raised in South Australia. I did grow up in WA, though. I went to uni there, spent some time abroad, which is where I got kind of my first taste or formal taste of astrophysics, doing a master's abroad. I then did a PhD back here in Melbourne, and then I handed out roses on national television for a period of time, which is how I think most people became familiar with myself. And since then, I've kind of continued on the science journey in a bit of AI, but this one in particular is all about astrophysics, and a large part of what I did my research on, but also stuff that I think people find uniquely curious about. Are we alone?
Okay, so someone has just said abroad so posh because you've got an accent. Where did that come from?
This is a good question, and I don't actually know. So I couldn't speak very well as a kid, and my tongue was all over the place. I've already got a little bit of the Adelaide twang. And then my granddad was from Birmingham, and I think my mum's got a little bit of that. But then because I needed speech therapy as a child, because I couldn't talk very well, I had a speech therapist, and she was Zimbabwean. So then I think there was this Zimbabwean accent that kind of got injected in there as well. So there's kind of, I think there's a lot of, very, a mixing pot of accents going on there that's resulted in whatever this is.
I love
And
it.
the owl sounds are particularly amusing. The house, now, cow, So yeah, I don't have a good answer for what the source of the accent is, but I know that there's been a lot of different contributing factors.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, to celebrate your new book launch, I got space nails. Let
Ah,
me see.
nah, bring them closer. Let me see. Oh, I
There's like
love it. I
there's
love it. Is that the
planets.
moon?
That the moon is there.
I love it.
There.
I love it. Waning
And
moon, good.
and also, I know it's not astrophysics, but like I've got Scorpio.
No, that's right. It's still a constellation, though. It's still a constellation. It still exists. So it's
Yeah,
still. I think you still can embrace it. That's still part of the world of space.
I
I
love
mean, in
it.
terms of how that dictates your personality is a different discussion point, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
No, that's good. That's good.
All right.
That's not Scorpio rising though, is it? That's Leo
No,
rising.
no, I am. You're very good. Almost. I am a Cancer rising. I'm a Leo moon.
Cancer rising Leo moon. I'm getting there. I'm slowly remembering it all.
All right. So someone just asked how the two of us met, and that was going to be our next question. Next question I thought that we should talk about how we even became friends.
Yeah, I think it was a mutual friend through Abby, wasn't it?
It was through Abby, but
I think.
I'm also going to admit this because I feel as though you never
Yeah.
will. I slid into the DMs.
I was allowing you to decide whether or not you confessed to sliding in. It was a welcome slide. I believe Woof was the particular slide that you
Wow.
went in with.
Okay. You went further than I did. I was just like, yeah, I
Yeah.
slid into the DMs. You didn't have to say I wolfed you. Like,
Well, I
oh
mean,
my
look,
God.
I thought, once it's all on the table, it's all on the table. So, so no, I
Uh,
think it was a combination of the DM slide and mutual friends.
Yeah, so Abby was when I kind of really met you in Sydney. She introduced us in real life, and then we started hanging out. And then you moved to Melbourne, and I kind of think that like that transition from you moving from Sydney to Melbourne was how we started hanging out a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it. We kind of the hangs in Sydney were obviously few and far between. It was only when you're up there for work, which, funnily enough, now you're up there very regularly for work. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I'm taking slight offence to that, but yes, it was when I moved down to Melbourne. Then it was obviously we got to hang out a lot more regularly, and that's I think where the friendship really blossomed,
Yeah.
and you started feeding me a lot more, which I don't object to that situation at all.
All right, I'm going to go back to the book now and life in science. Was that what you wanted to do growing up?
I think if I went back to my childhood, I'd say probably like a lot of kids, astronaut was the goal. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know at what age that the realization that that's kind of a very unrealistic aspirational goal happens. But yeah, I mean, I had always that was definitely something that I wanted to do as a child, and then you kind of start going through the usual school system and went through the engineering system, and especially in Western Australia, resource heavy. Basically, if you're doing engineering, you end up in resources in some capacity. Um, and then, kind of, when I moved away from engineering, I was having to think about what did I love as a child, and the thing that I loved was space. And I thought, well, astrophysics is space for adults. Let's do it. So that's what drove me down the astrophysics research route. Did the masters, loved the research component, and then moved to Melbourne to continue doing that research. So that it was not the goal, I don't think specifically, but certainly something space related was always there.
Mm,
And funnily enough, I did actually apply to be an astronaut last year, so I did
yeah.
actually have a crack at my dream goal of being an astronaut. Unfortunately, it was about 26,000 applicants for 6 spots,
Wow.
so the numbers were against me.
Wow.
And so I didn't process or progress further than just the first round of applicants. But
Uh,
I've had a crack at least, so that's something.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, so is that what kind of inspired you to write the book, like the whole being love, like doing like space, doing astrophysics? Is that where that came from? Or what was the inspiration behind this idea?
Yeah, so definitely, while I was doing my research, something I really liked, and it's something that, Dr. Carl has been doing for decades in Australia, which is making science accessible for people. And I think that's something I really liked doing with my specific area of research, because science inherently it's so jargon heavy, and it just sounds like gibberish unless it's actually distilled down into something that's accessible to someone. You don't need to have a particular, a bachelor of science to understand this specific thing. So for me, it was something I always really wanted to do, was that science communication and outreach, and making sure, re-exciting people about science.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone, and we spoke about this before, your particular science interest was geography. And I think it's something that, everyone does have an interest in science. That childlike interest never really, it doesn't go away. It just kind of gets put in a box at some stage.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of open that box for people and remind them why science is really fun and exciting and accessible to everyone. At a more kind of, I guess, deeper or more serious level, there's obviously, for the last several decades, there's been a decline in STEM numbers in Australia, in particular in girls, but also in boys. And I think that's something that's really important to kind of correct. And I think you correct that by making science accessible and fun and enjoyable for everyone at all ages. And so, I enjoy talking about science with people, but I'm hoping as well that I can have that larger impact and try and change that decline in STEM and get people back excited about science again.
Love it, love it. Okay, so you've got the new book out, Dr. Madden's Guide to Life in Space. Are you excited now that you're a published author, or are you nervous? How are you feeling?
The cocktail is nerves and excitement. I imagine, I don't know, I mean, how did you feel going into it? I'm going to flip this on you. I want to hear what your thoughts were when you first published your first book.
I was really excited when it came out. Definitely. I was kind of more nervous about how it was going to be received, as in were people going to read it and be like, this is gibberish. I think that's where the nerves come in, where it's not believing on your own content that you're putting out there, and the kind of information you're giving. Because look, mine's a cookbook, yours is a book about space, but they're both kind of similar where they are educational. They're teaching you different things, but they're both educational. So obviously anything that you're kind of putting out into the universe that is educational, you're always going to think, is this going to be good enough, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's something that, and I've forgotten who told me, but to try and reframe the way I think about it, that the publication of the book itself is the measure of success. I mean, ideally it sells well and people really enjoy it, but to get to the point of publishing it, please buy the book, everyone. Just the link is in my bio. I'm trying to be humble here and say the measure of success is the book, but please buy it. But yeah, no, I think it was a huge undertaking for me, and it took a long time to write, a long time to edit and get everything to a spot that I was happy with. I actually have not read the final product because I know I'm going to find a typo or something that I'm going to be furious about. But I've read through it, obviously about 30 times. So no matter how many times you read it, it's never going to be quite, you'll find something that you're not happy with. And so, I'm really excited about it. And I think going on the tour in November and meeting the people who are excited about the book as well, I think that's going to make it real for me and remind me that's why I've done this. This is the audience that's excited about this and are going to enjoy it. And so I think nerves and excitement, I think that's the right cocktail.
Awesome. All right, so as we're talking about the book, I've had a quick read of part 1. I find it a really easy read because I'm naturally really interested in science, and the first kind of part is very much about Earth. So it's things that I love already. But I'm going to give you a minute starting in a second, to tell us about the book. Like, just give us a quick synopsis of what you're going to find. Give us a snapshot. Your time starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so the book is broken up into 3 parts. Part 1 is, why is the Earth special? What is the unique environment on Earth that has led to life not just beginning, but thriving and flourishing? Part 2 is, where else is special? So beyond Earth, within our own solar system, are there other planets? Are there other moons around other planets where there's the right ingredients for life to also have potentially existed either in the past or now? And then part 3, we start going really wild and we start discussing things. Where are the aliens? Have we seen anything that could be considered of alien origin? Have we detected things? Have we spotted things? Or if we were looking for things, what are we looking for? And so the answers to these questions you'll find in the book.
Oh my God, you beat the minute. Like,
did I?
10 seconds. Yeah, you got 10
oh,
seconds.
10 seconds. Oh, well,
you
10 seconds.
It.
And then you'll be able to find out that there's some really great stuff in there and great pictures. Lovely. It's beautiful.
I love it. I want to tap into part 1 because what I found really interesting is what makes Earth special. You dive into Jupiter. Do you want to give us a quick snapshot of why Jupiter makes Earth special?
Yeah, so I have a bit of a weird relationship with Jupiter. It was actually my master's thesis was based around Jupiter-like planets, and then my PhD thesis kind of continued on this focus on Jupiter. And it's a weird thing to think about because it's this giant planet, but it's so far away. How could it have anything to do with life on Earth? And there's a couple of competing hypotheses, and the one that I kind of explore in this book is the idea that Jupiter has helped basically act as a bit of a shield for us with the idea that, you know, the asteroid, for example, that killed the dinosaurs, potentially there's been more of those that have come towards us. But because Jupiter is such a big planet and has such a big gravitational pull, maybe that asteroid actually got pulled in by Jupiter and hit Jupiter instead of us. And so there's this idea that maybe it's actually protected us. The other way that it's been kind of seen as a way of making Earth more habitable is that, again, because of the gravity, it kind of drags things that are really, really far out. So we're talking things that are far out like Neptune, Pluto, really far out, where all the comets are. And comets are basically balls of ice. It's just all water, essentially. So the other way that Jupiter is seen that it could help is that it kind of drags in these comets, again, because of the gravity of Jupiter, and then it slams these comets into Earth, and then that kind of essentially adds all this extra water to Earth. So it essentially waters the Earth.
Which
so
is what
we actually... Correct. And so if we actually do, we've done tests where we've checked the chemistry of comets and the chemistry of the water on Earth. And what we find is that there is definitely water on the Earth that is being delivered by comets. So there's definitely water from comets that is on Earth right now. And so, it's this idea that Jupiter might actually be quite important for several reasons, that both from a protection kind of point of view, but also from making it wet.
I'm going to bypass that. Are you telling me that this water that I'm drinking could be alien water?
Yes, correct. Well, all the water, it's all been mixed together. That water definitely at some stage has come from a comet. It's all been mixed together. Some of the water was formed when the Earth formed. There would have been water in a gaseous state, but a large portion of water also would have been smashed onto the Earth from comets. So you are drinking comet water, correct?
Love it.
I mean, it might only be one molecule of comet water, but you're drinking comet water.
What? I like that. I'm into it. Obviously, you're really interested in space. I feel like I'm a nerd as well. But what do you think is the coolest thing about space? Like, or the number one, just one thing.
One thing, that's tough. Can I do two? Can I cheat?
Oh, yeah, of course, go.
Yeah, okay. The first one's really quick. So the first one is that obviously we orbit around the sun, but also the solar system orbits around the Milky Way galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And what's kind of cool about that is that the position of the Earth and the solar system was actually on the other side of the Milky Way when the dinosaurs were roaming the Earth, which is really, really cool because you kind of
Wow.
forget the fact that the solar system also is moving around this,
Yeah.
this disk. And so, yeah, I think that's a really cool thing that people kind of don't think about is the solar system and the Earth was actually on the other side of the galaxy when dinosaurs were roaming the Earth, which I think is really, really cool. The other one is just the sheer scale of space, just how big it is and how we've launched. The furthest spacecraft we've launched is Voyager 1, which we launched back in the 70s. So it's been going for about 50 years. And it hasn't even traveled one light day. And it's been going for 50 years. And our nearest star is 4 light years away. So it's taking us 50 years to almost make one light day. And our nearest star is 4 light years. So it's just the scale is so mind-boggling. And I think it's kind of cool. It's very scary as well, but it's also just really cool.
Okay, so I'm going to move away from my questions that I've got prepared right now because now you just tapped into something that I think is really interesting. Do you think that is the reason why sometimes space seems really unapproachable to like a normie like myself? Like because of the scale of it, if there's so much information that you're like, where do I like begin? Like what happens here?
I think so. I think it can be very overwhelming because of the scale, the number of stars, the Milky Way galaxy has 100 billion stars conservatively. And what does that even mean? 100 billion. It's kind of these numbers that are kind of they're so abstract. They make no sense. Yeah. So I think there is this kind of barrier where, it's hard to kind of grasp your head around some of these concepts because they are so big. And there's this famous analogy. It's in the book, and so I'm probably going to get it wrong because I'm not going to be able to find the page quick enough. But the number of stars in the entire universe is equal to the number of grains of sand on the Earth, but 10,000 for each grain of sand.
Oh my gosh!
Each grain of sand. Think about every grain of sand. 10,000 stars for each grain of sand in the entire universe. That's how many stars there are, and it's it's mind-boggling numbers. But it's so yes, I think you're right. There is this barrier because it is such abstract, crazy numbers.
All right, so let's pull them back in. Let's pull the viewers back in because we've gone really big here. Tell us something about space that we probably don't already know.
Something you don't already know. Okay, there was a very cool study that came out perhaps about 10 years ago now, I think. But the center of the Milky Way, the chemicals detected there, and I think you'll like this from a potential recipe point of view. The center of the Milky Way, the chemicals detected smell like rum and taste like raspberries. Based on the chemicals, the chemistry that has been detected, that's what the smell and taste would be at the center of the Milky Way. And I feel like there's a collaboration in here somewhere, but I just haven't figured it out yet.
No,
but I think that's really cool.
You come over, I make you a dessert, and it'll be a rum and raspberry style dessert. Are we alive?
I mean, coming over and getting fed by you, that's, there's no arguments on my side. So I think that's something really cool. I'm trying to think what another one that other people might not, a common one that.
Tell us about how astronauts sleep, because I didn't know that, and I'm a nerd.
Okay, yeah, this one's very cool. So basically, astronauts on the International Space Station. So that's the space station that was a big collaboration between NASA, the European Space Agency, the Russian Space Agency, I think the Japanese Space Agency, and it's been in orbit around the Earth for, I think it's 20 or 30 years now. And they've been constantly, there's been a semi-permanent human, group up there the entire time. But when they go to sleep on the space station, and this is really weird, is basically they just get in a cupboard, because you open a door, you get in a cupboard, you close the door, and there's no up or down. There's no direction because the gravity's not there. So you just are like, you're in a cupboard vertically, but not really vertically because there's no up or down. And it's just a real weird thing to think about until you think, well, actually, if you went to a cupboard and didn't have gravity pulling you in any direction, you wouldn't have any idea what direction you were facing or what up and down was. And it's such a weird idea that basically beds in the International Space Station is you just open the cupboard, get in, and go to sleep. That's it. It's a really weird idea. But it makes sense. It makes sense. It's like
you're not laying down because you're not like. What about your muscles?
Well, yeah, your muscles are just relaxed. There's no, and that's the thing. So I think the majority of the time, astronauts on the International Space, we're going on a real tangent here, but the majority of the time on the International Space Station, the astronauts are spending time doing exercise because the muscle loss and the bone density loss is so significant when there's that little gravity. So they've got to, and again, because if you're on a treadmill but there's no gravity, they've actually got to have these elastic bands that kind of strap them in and pull them down.
Right.
Because otherwise you can't run. You're just going to kind of like drift around and, flail about, which is kind of, flailing about is what I do when I run anyway. But this is actually for a legitimate reason.
Look, that doesn't sound like fun to me. And also, I hate the idea of having to go back into the closet all the time, constantly. So definitely, don't think I'll be an astronaut anytime soon. Okay.
Very good.
Let's talk aliens.
Let's talk aliens.
Do they exist? Are they here now? Am I an alien? Are you an alien?
Well, yes. Do we subscribe to the Men in Black theory? I don't. I think we've discussed this. You're more of a Men in Black theory kind of guy, aren't you?
Yeah, they're here. I know they're here.
Yeah.
They're watching this live right now.
Yeah. So my personal belief is that life, very simple microbial bacterial life is common. I think definitely there's a case of, you have the right ingredients for life in the right environment and life starts. I think that there's a jump from really, really simple life to complex life. And when I say complex life, it's not even, like you and me. We're talking just multicellular type stuff, like just the jump from single cellular to multicellular. That jump, there's something special there that is, I think, where the challenge is for life to evolve. So I think, for example, one of the Perseverance, which is the current latest Mars rover, is looking actively to see if we can find fossilized ancient life on Mars. And we know where to look. We know where all the ancient lake beds and river beds are. And I think there's other moons that potentially might have the right ingredients. So I subscribe to that theory that life is, I don't want to say common, but it's not ultra rare. It's kind of, right ingredients, right environment, you get it. In terms of something like, the old classic Little Green Man, E.T., stuff like us, I think that is phenomenally rare. I think there's something very special about things getting complex. And I think the other one is that there's this, I think at times this idea that evolution wants to become intelligent. That's kind of like the direction natural selection goes. And that's not necessarily the case. Natural selection is just random mutations and what is the dominant mutation. And you think about the dinosaurs had, a couple of 100 million years of dominance and they didn't get smarter. And that's because the mutation they had made them dominant. And so potentially, if life does become complex, it doesn't even become intelligent because it becomes, there could be a whole bunch of planets with dinosaurs rolling about. So I've given a bit of a waffly answer to that question, but my thoughts are, yes, I think life is not uncommon. I think complex life is tremendously rare. I think intelligent life is mind-bogglingly rare, and I think that's why we haven't seen them yet, except if you're correct and they're actually living here right now, and we just haven't, and they're just really good at hiding.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with you here.
Good. Good. I like fun.
You're going on date number 4 with someone. Okay, you've gotten a rocket ship that is just able to travel just super fast. Like, it can get you anywhere, basically. All right. The where you go doesn't need to be inhabitable by us. We don't need to be able to live there because the spaceships, the spacesuits and everything for you. Where are you taking this date?
Okay, date 4. Yeah, because date 3 would be a different place, but date 4, there's definitely, yeah. So no, date 4, I think it would be one of the moons of Saturn, one of the inner moons of Saturn. Specifically, would I have one in mind? Maybe Titan. The specific one doesn't matter too much. It's got to be one of the ones close to Saturn, because.
When you said moons, I was like, he's going to say Titan.
There you go. Great minds think alike. So I think we'll say Titan. Let's go with Titan because we're on the same page. And I think because the idea of, you know, in the night sky, the backdrop of this beautiful planet with that gorgeous ring, it would just be this, you know, absolute, and stop giggling about the gorgeous ring. There would just be this absolutely stunning backdrop in the night sky.
Yeah.
And obviously we have stop giggling at the gorgeous ring. It would just be a very beautiful gorgeous ring. It'd be a very beautiful, I think, backdrop to a date. I think you'd have this, really lovely view. Saturn is, you know, kind of the crown jewel of the solar system. It's the prettiest, you know, it just looks really beautiful. And I think if you are on a planet and had that kind of landscape, that's a good date 4. Date 3, I think probably a little too much, but date 4, that's a goer.
Okay, so I'm thinking, date's done. You come back to Earth. You find out that the Earth is now uninhabitable. Where are we going? Can we even go somewhere? Can we survive on another planet?
Yeah, we're in a bit of trouble there. So the short answer, there's no other habitable planets that we know of. Longer answer, Mars would be the most obvious choice. It's obviously the closest. It's eerily similar to Earth. In fact, it's so similar that the day is almost 24 hours as well. So the day actually is very similar, which is, you know, just handy for the fact that we've evolved, you know, our circadian rhythms have to be 24 hours. The year obviously is much longer. It's got an atmosphere, very thin atmosphere, but it's got one. It's a rocky planet. It's got a lot of resources that would be useful for harvesting to construct, you know, domes that we can live in. And yes, the key one is water. It's got loads of ice water at the poles, but we've also detected underground subterranean oceans. And that means that there's liquid water there for us to kind of use. There's a lot of things we'd have to do, a lot of engineering to make it habitable, but there's already a bunch of stuff there that makes it less of a stretch compared to basically everywhere else in the solar system.
So, like, if we were even to think about moving to Mars, it would be starting over, basically, and also trying to make the temperature right so that we don't freeze.
So I don't think we could change on a global scale. I don't think we could change the temperature. We'd have to go with kind of, enclosed domes and stuff. But there's also, and I haven't read the research paper on it, there's like subterranean, I think there was like volcanism on Mars back, you know, millions of years ago, and there's kind of subterranean tunnels. And so I think one of the ideas is that potentially we could get under into these tunnels and stuff, right? And so you'd still require heating and all that kind of stuff, but some of the infrastructure is already there. So yeah, in terms of the key things would be some kind of dome for heating, some kind of way to have an atmosphere that we can breathe, and then the water, but we can just pump up the water in some way or another. So it's the one that's it's closest. It's the one that's most habitable very generously. But yeah, it would definitely be Mars is the one to go for sure.
Oh, that's actually really interesting. I'm not taking questions, but someone just asked about seasons on Mars, and that's interesting to me because I want to know there are seasons on Mars.
There are seasons, yes. So, funnily enough, I do talk about or I should say Martian seasons in the book. There's a chapter in the book on Mars, and there was a paper, and I discuss this in more detail in the book, but there was a paper that actually found in the warm Martian summer, and in the warm Martian summer, it can actually get up to 20 degrees Celsius, which is actually a good temperature, right?
Nice. It's nobody
yeah, that's it, exactly. So that would be fine. We could roll around Mars. We couldn't breathe anything, but we'd be warm.
Could I just carry like a tree with me? Like, would that help?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you kind of strapped it to your head in some capacity. But basically, yeah, there are seasons, and yeah, in these warm Martian the warm Martian summer, there's been detections of what looks like potentially liquid water running down these sides of the mountain. And so I won't go into all the detail about it because there's more to go into in that chapter. But yeah, there's definitely seasons, and there's times when there's parts of Mars that are warmer than parts of the Earth, which is really interesting. So yeah, seasons definitely a thing.
I'm going to go back to some book questions because I'm interested in this. Let's talk about your writing process. Like, what was that like? And like, okay, there's like the process, but then when you're thinking about space, subject matter is so large. How do you even condense that into a book?
Yeah. So in terms of getting it down into a small subject matter that I could tackle, I went with kind of the niche of my PhD. And the funny thing about astrophysics is quite broad. There's a lot of subjects, and people would tell me when I was doing my astrophysics PhD, other people would tell me what they're doing in astrophysics, and I would have no idea what they meant. They'd say something to me about, it's galactic morphology and like a bunch of big words. I'm like, I've got no idea what that means. And that's another astrophysicist telling me their research topic. So that just shows how not only is it broad, but having a knowledge of one niche doesn't necessarily mean you have a knowledge of these other niches, right? So I deliberately leaned directly into the stuff that I was most knowledgeable about, which was habitability of planets. So that's how I kind of narrowed down the scope of the book. In terms of the writing style, I kind of just tried to think what would be a logical way to tell the story about life in space. And for me, a kind of in to out was the way to go. Start from the Earth, expand to the solar system, expand to planets around other star systems, and then basically open it all up to the alien conversation. So once I had the kind of structure down, it was then a case of, right, in each of these kind of parts, each of these chapters, what are the key things I want to talk about? What do I want to get across? So I had a very, I guess, meticulous and structured way that I approached it. And I think it kind of, it's probably quite unique person to person when it comes to writing. But for me, having that structure and kind of knowing where I was going in each chapter, I think was really important for getting down the key facts.
So what I really enjoyed about this was as soon as I opened up the second page and you had your parts and the chapters within the parts, I no longer felt scared. Like I looked at the chapters and I went, okay, cool. Part 1, chapter 1, we're going to talk about water on Earth, why that makes Earth special. And then chapter 2, we speak about like the atmosphere. Understand? I'm like, I get it. It's the air we breathe, what surrounds us. Number 3, plate tectonics. I'm like, understand that as well. Natural disasters, shifting, moving constantly. So within the actual parts of the book, you have cut it down to little chapters that makes it a lot more palatable. And that's what I love about like diving into this book.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's perfect. And that's definitely what we tried to do. So I even have added it within each chapter. If you flick through, there's even subheadings to break it up again, because each chapter, it can get quite heavy sometimes. If I go through something quite complex, and I try and obviously make it, as accessible as possible, but then sometimes it's nice to have a break. And so there's even subheadings to, again, kind of break it up further. So you've got, okay, I've just taken in something, I've taken in a lot of detail. I can hit pause now and take a moment. But there's also, if you flick through, there's what I call fun bubbles. And there's little balls, colourful balls in there. Stop giggling. And within each of them,
you said that.
Okay. But within each one, I'm just trying to find an example. So it's kind of there's these colourful bubbles that kind of pop up, and they're kind of like breakout bubbles, and they don't necessarily, they're not tied directly to the narrative. So if you could read the whole book and skip over every single one, and you'd get the entire book. But at the same time, it breaks things up. So you can read and learn about something that is loosely related to the chapter you're reading. And it just kind of breaks things up and gives you something, a bit of fun. It's a bit out there. There's some stuff about like the birthday paradox. I go into a fun little statistics probability thing. There's a funny story, like myth about king paying someone who made them a chess game. There's stuff about big numbers, the grain of sand analogy that I said earlier. So it kind of, it breaks things up. It was definitely, and it was a very kind of deliberate thing to do, because as you said, it can be quite intimidating. But as soon as you see the you've got part 1, then you've got 6 chapters, then within each chapter, it breaks up smaller and smaller, and it just makes it into a much gentler ride through a topic that is complex.
Look, I think it's actually quite an easy read. I did have a flick through, and I found that everything that you have in here is really interesting, and I found it interesting, and I have the shortest attention span. Now, when you were doing this, what was your hardest? This is going to be your final book question before we move on to like the audience at home that are watching. We're going to jump into their questions, but what was the hardest thing about writing this?
Hardest thing about writing it was there was probably some of the parts are outside of my specific area of research, which means to get it right, I needed to conduct thorough research as well. And that involves reading a lot of scientific journal articles. And those articles are written in the complete opposite way of this, where it is jargon heavy. It's got a lot of assumed knowledge. They're typically very dry science articles, because they're being published for experts in the field, so they don't need to kind of be gentle at all. And so there's a lot of parts where I know what I wanted to talk about, and I knew it was important to talk about, but it was also really important for me that the science is correct. And there was a moment for a while where I was contemplating having citations to everything in the book, but at the end I decided no, that was just going to make it a heavier kind of clunkier read. So I went through a lot of research myself, so it's all backed by science. There's articles and journal articles that do back it all up, but going into areas that were slightly outside my expertise just meant it was a lot of extra work to get your head around certain things, and then say, okay, now how do I actually tell the important parts of this? And it's come out really well, and I'm really happy with how it has. But that was definitely a big challenge to get that all across.
All right. Yeah, of course, that sounds really super hard. Like, again, like reading papers in jargon, I'm like, I would not know I would not know what I'm doing. But I'm going to move on now to some of the questions that we got at home. There are actually a lot of them. Okay.
So this is from Little Laura. For both of you, favorite planet and meal. Congratulations on the books. Okay. Favorite planet for me, Earth aside, I think Jupiter. Mars.
No,
Mars.
okay, go for that, because I wanted Jupiter and I felt like we couldn't have the same answer.
Okay, you can have Jupiter. I'll have Mars because Mars was the one that got me hooked on space. So you can have Jupiter.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
In my mind, Jupiter has the big eye, the big continuous storm.
The big storm, that's shrinking.
Yeah,
shrinking.
The literally the giant Jupiter, big storm, giant hole right there, Jupiter.
Yeah. That's it.
Did you say it's shrinking?
It's shrinking. Yeah, it's slowly getting small. I mean, very slowly, but yeah, it's technically shrinking. But okay, but also favorite meal. Ooh, favorite meal. That's tough. I know favorite dessert. That's easy. That's sticky date pudding.
Sticky date pudding.
By a landslide. Favorite meal. I am partial to a rendang curry. I don't know if that would be my favorite though. I'm just gonna lock in favorite dessert because dessert's still a meal, so I'm just locking in sticky date pudding.
Yeah. You love your dessert. I reckon it wouldn't have even had to be a sticky date. I could have taken you out for a jam donut and you'd be like, "This is the best. This is the best thing ever."
Okay, look, I'm easy like that. Yeah, that's true. That's give me something sweet and I'm going to be loving it. But yeah, sticky date pudding.
For me, for myself, my favorite meal is a hard one. If it's something that I don't make often, that I always love, it's bún bò Huế, so it's like a spicy Vietnamese noodle dish. But if I can easily access it, then it's just wicked wings.
Yeah, wicked wings. You've told me this. You've told me this before. Yeah, fair call. Fair call.
I just love
wicked wings. Yeah,
I'm going to order wicked wings after this.
Good. I wish I could order a sticky date pud, but I'm sure somewhere can. I'm sure I can find somewhere that delivers. But yeah, no, I'll source something. Okay. Do we have another question? Yes. Here we go. Will everyday people?
They just pop up. I love them. I'm looking through them, and they're just popping up.
Yeah, this is good. This is okay. Will everyday people be visiting space in the next 50 years? Yes, I think so. We're seeing, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of space tourism because I feel like it's, the sand pit for billionaires. But I do appreciate that the commercialization of space travel will make it cheaper as it scales. And so it will, within 50 years, get to a point where I think your everyday person can go to space on a much more realistic budget than, hang on, I think you admitted to me that you went in a ballot, didn't you, Carl?
Yeah. I entered.
Yeah, what was the cost?
The SpaceX ballot, I entered, and they haven't actually told me if I've won a ballot. But it wasn't even winning the opportunity. It wasn't winning to go to space. It was winning the opportunity to purchase a ticket to go to space. And I'm pretty sure it was like 5 million or something. And I was like, why did I even enter this? Like, I can't afford that.
just have a lazy 5 million hanging around.
But I feel as though if I spent that 5 million and I went to space, I would make it back really easily by documenting my travel.
Yeah. You'd be able to leverage it and monetize it in some way. I don't know if you could leverage $5 million out of it, but yeah, you definitely.
I don't know.
It depends. I mean, if you took enough things up there, like I could see you kind of like doing some 0G cooking and stuff. Then that, I feel like that could definitely be monetized.
Yeah.
For sure. So yes, I think next 50 years, you won't have to pay $5 million. I think it's going to be much more realistic.
I can't even afford that. All right, what's next? Was your book tougher to write than your thesis, man?
Oof, good question.
Great question.
No, my thesis was tougher. The thesis is a lot more rigid. So the scientific articles are a lot more rigid. You have to be a lot more kind of passive with your tone. You can't make, uh, if you make an assertion because of the scientific method, it goes through a review process. And if it
Mm-hmm.
goes through someone who doesn't completely, they're like, that's too strong a language, they're going to
Mm.
knock it back. Um, and my first paper that I published took me from submission to acceptance, took me 10 months. That's how long and how rigorous the review process is. So the thesis was a lot harder because of that there's a lot more constraints on what you can do. The book
Mm.
was a lot more entertaining. I could be a lot more conversational in my language. I could say things, not lie, but I could say things that there's a large body of research that say, a certain particular hypothesis, and if there's a smaller group of research, I don't need to, acknowledge that because
Mm.
it's not going through the review
Yeah.
process. So there's just a lot more freedom. I think the conversational nature as well. That was something I really enjoyed. I really wanted to write it as if you were sitting down having a drink with me, and I'm just talking
Mm.
space to you, and that was really fun. So yeah, definitely the thesis was the bigger challenge.
Look, we're running out of time now, so I'm just going to take two more questions, and then I've got one final question. So just two last questions, and we will move on. Lunch.
Here we
Go
go.
to lunchbox item, Matt.
Oh, I don't know. Hang on. Well, hang on. Let's start with you. Because you're always the creator of the lunchbox, but what's your dream lunchbox item?
Um, I like a baguette. So a crunchy bread for me is always going to be a winner, no matter what you fill it with. The idea of having something that is crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, something creamy, like bitter, like all of that just makes me so happy. So a baguette always makes me happy. So a banh mi or even like a French style baguette with some mustard, like some ham and some brie, cranberry, gorge.
Damn it, that was what I was going to say. Okay, I've got to say something else now. Um, because you've made me that exact sandwich, I'm pretty sure as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It's an easy one. Just
Okay,
rock it in there. It's yummy.
yeah. Look, I'm a big fan of a Reuben. I do like a really good Reuben. So I would
Ah,
say the problem is that it doesn't really lunchbox as well, I guess, because it's
no,
typically warm. Oh, is it
no.
okay? No, it's doable.
Dis disagree. I made Mickey a Reuben for one of his lunch boxes, and he said that was the best lunchbox he's ever had out of all of my lunch boxes because you can do a Reuben for a lunchbox. It's just about how you layer it so that the sauces don't make the bread go soggy. So it's about putting things in
Right.
between that protects the. I think what I did was I put a layer of baking paper in between the actual bread and the filling, and then before he ate it, he just pulled the piece of paper out.
Put it out. Ah, yes. No, that's clever. Okay, yes. Well,
Always got to
then,
pull out.
in that case, you always got. There was a lot of innuendo, in that particular question. But yes, Reuben. We'll stick with the Reuben.
Love it.
What's your favorite country and meal? Okay, so similar question to before. Favorite country and meal. I'm assuming country in relation to cuisine.
Yeah, I think so
So
too.
in that case, for me, it's Italy. Yeah, it's all the Italian cuisine, just simple, delicious, love it all, and yeah, I can't go past Italy. Just everything I love about it, and then of course, obviously, you know, gelato, and you know how I all feel about ice cream. So
The ice cream. Yeah.
it's a no-brainer for me. It's got to be Italy.
So I'm gonna say that I'm ignoring Vietnam because that's an obvious one for me. I would have gone down. If you asked me this question last week, I would have said Greek, like Greek food, Greece,
Ooh,
clean proteins, like olive oil, lemon, salt, gorgeous oregano. heaven.
Yeah.
Nice vegetables. But I have recently jumped on Italy because I really currently enjoy making like pasta. Like I really enjoy making it. And so now I'm falling in love with Italian food more and more because like I keep wanting to explore different shapes, different sauces, and keeping things super simple. Like honestly, I reckon after this, if I don't order something, I'm gonna make some pasta, hand roll it out, and just do like a sage butter sauce with it.
Okay. Well, in the coming weeks, if you need someone to try some of these pasta experiments that you plan to do, just let me know. I'll be in the vicinity, ready to come and get stuck into them.
Oh.
That would be my pleasure.
Okay.
I love it.
So before we end, I have this final thing because I've been guys at home. This is really for you, so I need you to kind of interact here. I've been trying to get Matt to do Instagram, like Reels or TikTok, whatever it is, and present us science, but in a sexy way. And I feel like you guys have gotten a taste of that today. Like the way that he speaks about little subjects in science is really captivating and really interesting and also really quite sexy because he's so nerdy about it. If you think that this is something that you'll definitely tune into, let us know because I think he should do it. I'm not asking him to take off his top or anything. I just want him to stand there, talk to the camera and tell us about the moon, tell us about Jupiter, tell us about how many moons Jupiter or Saturn has. That's all I want.
Okay, yes, no, look, I mean, there's some positive feedback here. Okay, yes, sexy science. You've suggested sexy science several times. It's probably about time I deliver on sexy science. So,
oh my God, that's what it's going to be called. Sorry.
Yeah.
Talk nerdy to me. That is what we're calling the segment. Talk nerdy.
Okay. Talk nerdy to me. Okay. If you want talk nerdy to me, I will post up a question box after this. Give me some questions related to science, and then that will give me something to start talk nerdy to me with. So yes. Okay. There's enough enthusiasm here that I think I've got to deliver. So yes, well played, Khan.
I've peer pressured / bullied you into doing this, and I don't care. I'm so happy that I've done it.
No, it's good. It's good.
Look, thank you so much for everyone joining us. It's been great chatting to Matt about space and his new book, Dr. Matt's Guide to Life in Space. Be sure to tag your friends, your family in the comments if you'd like them to learn more. To wrap up, can you tell everyone how and where people can read, hear, and see more of you?
Yep. So it will be on the shelves officially on November 1st. You can pre-order now. There's a link in my bio you can go through and pre-order. And I will be doing a tour starting in November. I will post shortly the dates, and I think there's some events where there'll be ticketed events as well. I'll post those links as well so you can come along because it would be lovely to meet you all and talk science to you. So please do buy the book, come meet me, come say hi, and this has been really fun. And so no, thank you, Khan. It's been a pleasure, and also to have a few naughty things in there as well.
Well, thank you for being here with me today. Our time has definitely run out for the evening. If you have enjoyed this discussion, you can order our books right now. Oh, both of them. From booktopia.com.au and via the link in bio and join the Booktopia Fest celebration. Thank you again, Matt. I am looking forward to talk nerdy to me.
Me too. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, babe. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.